Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are doing well. Today, with a very special episode, I do have a guest, Neil. Welcome, Neil, from
Cheers, mate.
the Adventurous Investor YouTube channel. And I really enjoyed an interview that I did with John Palmer. Actually already a couple of months ago, probably 9 or 10 months ago, and I felt like it's about time to restart that and to get a couple of great people on my YouTube channel, where we can talk about investing, can talk about all things that we do and how we started with investments and why we are, for example, do that on YouTube and why we talk about our investment stuff. Thanks for coming on, Neil.
Thanks heaps for having me on, mate. It's awesome. Good to catch up with you.
Yeah, and so if you guys are wondering what's happening here and on Neil's, so we are right in the middle of Movember. We got together with I think 12 other, or in total we are 13 other
John, yeah.
YouTubers that speak about the topic of finance. We are led by Tom from Investing with Tom. He reached out and asked all finance YouTubers to participate in the great Movember fundraiser, and we teamed up. So far, we have managed to collect over $3,000, I think New Zealand dollars, and it's amazing. There's still time to donate. You can check out the link in the description to contribute to our channel. And we have a number of live streams going on the channel from Investing with Tom. I'll leave a link in the description for this as well. And yeah, we love your support. So go and check this out.
Awesome.
Right. I would love to start with a couple of questions so that our audience gets to know you a little bit. Short and sharp.
Nice.
To see who we are speaking to. So your full name?
Neil Denize.
And what's your age?
36.
36. And so what area? What area in the world, either country or local area, would you call home?
Yeah, this is a good question. When you mentioned it earlier, I was like, definitely Kiwi would always sort of be home for me. But spent a good chunk of my life traveling overseas and whatnot, and currently living in Tasmania with my wife and a little boy there. So that you could call that home at the moment, I guess. But then we also spent a fair amount of time in Japan as well. So then, I don't know, it's hard to pinpoint an exact location as where's home, but definitely Kiwi at heart, let's say.
Kiwi, that's good. I think you never lose that, no? So where you grew up,
no.
that's obviously something where you always connect to. But yeah, I'm mostly I'm from Germany, and I grew up in a very tiny village. Which is not too far away from Cologne, so west of Germany. But yeah, that's where I grew up, and I still feel like that. We did pre-COVID. No, we went home every year to make sure that we see our families. So yeah, and certainly there's still a great connection. Still some good friends there. Yeah.
But do you think you'll be in Australia now for a number of years, or any plans on moving back, or?
Not at the moment. Certainly, COVID changed our view on that. It feels far away. I think in the past we always thought it's actually very, very close, because you can be there in a day or so. If something happens where you just want to be home, you can travel within a day. That has certainly changed. No?
It's the same for me. Like New Zealand, it's just there. It's a couple hour flight and back home. But yeah, having even that freedom taken away from me, I'm like, what? It's unreal.
Yeah. Let's go into the last couple of questions from our exactly, and then we go into full on investment talk, because this is obviously what we are here for, right?
That's it. Give the people what they want.
Exactly. If just imagine you were sitting at a bar, what would be the drink that you order? What's your go-to drink?
Just a beer. I'm
beer?
not yeah, just a beer, I'd say. Yeah.
You know what? I'm 100% with you. I love drinking beer. So no, sometimes obviously you have one or two too many, but I love just having one or two beer. I really love the taste of beer. No?
Yeah, no, that's definitely me as well. I'm not a huge drinker anymore. Back in obviously younger days, I used to tip a few more in, but yeah, over these last probably maybe 5 or 7 years, I guess, I really sort of reined it back in. But now I still love just having like you said, a beer or two, or catching up with mates over a couple of beers, or maybe even 3 or 4 or 6. But yeah, that's just my go-to. I drink the odd bit of scotch from time to time. My father-in-law, he likes having a few scotches, so I have a few scotches with him every once in a while. But that's pretty much it for me on the drinking front.
Yeah. So we are still at that bar. I order a beer as well. It's great.
Nice.
I was sitting there, starting to chat. It would be a good chat. And at some point, I would ask you, "Look, Neil, what are you doing for living? What is it that you do?"
Yeah, that's also another good question. So yeah, at the moment we're currently doing a little bit of offshore work in the oil and gas industry. So I pick up the odd swing here, and it's all casual sort of work at the moment. But yeah, I was really trying to phase that out and sort of more focus on our business in Japan, which has been our sort of push these last few years over there prior to COVID. It was all ticking over quite nicely. But yeah, obviously COVID sort of changed tack a little bit on that one. But
so
hopefully.
What is that business in a nutshell? What are you doing there?
We have a small ski lodge. We actually have 2 now, but yeah, just basically a small little ski lodge, just that we run the day-to-day operations of that usually. It's just a small 10 guest room, one of them, and then we've got another one that's 7 guest rooms as well, which we're going to sort of rent out as a whole lodge. You just book the whole lodge out as a group, or functions or birthdays or whatever it may be. There's quite a market there that needs to sort of be tapped into a bit more. As even with our other lodge, we quite often get big group bookings that would book the entire lodge, which is awesome. It makes it a bit easier for us for day to day. There's not just heaps of single parties or couples or families coming and going. So yeah, that's it in a very basic nutshell.
And you would be there a lot then for the time when there's season, or when there's ski season? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So we were there from we only bought the lodge in 2018 actually, so this is a fairly new venture for us. But we have spent a fair bit of time in Japan prior to this, doing previous working in other lodges and whatnot. But so yeah, we're there flat out all season long, from like about sort of early December right through to about end of March, early April is the chunk of the winter. But generally it's January, February is your prime sort of peak months for us, for the business there.
Oh yeah, that's cool, amazing, interesting.
Yeah, it is cool. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I love ski holidays as well. That's one of the things that I miss being in Australia. In the past, I always been at least once a year up to the mountains in either Bavaria or Austria, going for a ski. 100%.
Awesome. Love it.
And upper ski, of course. Sorry.
Yeah. Have you been to Japan?
I have not. No. Everyone is talking about the great snow, but no, I have not.
Yeah, you definitely have to pinch tripping.
Yeah, we have to. You have to book us in one of your lodges.
Yes, come on over, mate. Bring the kids. When they get a bit older, bring the kids. And hopefully we'll all be on the board. Or on the ski board.
Snowboard most of the time.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been on ski a little bit, but I'm quicker on the snowboard, even though it's usually the other way around. But yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm the same. I ski a little bit as well, but definitely the loves for the snowboarding.
Yes, that's great. All right, the slowly getting towards the investment topic. What's your favorite investor, or the one that you probably admire the most, or that you follow closely?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Obviously Buffett, he's everyone's sort of top of the list, I feel. So that's a bit of an easy cop out, that one. But yeah. But then also, like, I'm a big fan of Monish. Like, I just love like his books, his videos, everything he does. Even though I was pretty shocked to see him sell out Alibaba actually, but another topic. But yeah, and then then from Monish, then it leads you on to Guy Spear and all that. So the top three would have to be Charlie, Monish, Buffett. But yeah, it's for me, it's hard to pinpoint like one. And then you got Phil Town. Like there's just so many. It's hard for me to sort of really pinpoint it on one.
Yeah, I need to say I really resonate with Guy Spear.
Yes.
On how he speaks. I've listened to so many interviews from him, and he was obviously quite active on YouTube as well. And he's great.
He's got his own podcast as well, which I only recently got onto, probably in the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, no, he's good. So his philosophy and also how he he talks always a little bit about how he treats life as well, and what he and how he tries to obviously create a good life for him, not only the investment part, but so that's really good. Oh yeah, amazing. But obviously in the same area, I think Guy Spear, Monish Pabrai, they're all kind of friends, no? They all stick together and exchange their thoughts, so still in the same area. Yeah.
Have you read his book? You must.
I have not. No, I have not.
Oh, mate, you should. It's so good. It's really good. It's not definitely get it. Even on Audible, it's a fantastic listen or read if you want to get the actual hard book.
Yeah, I have read Richer, Wiser, Happier.
Awesome.
Not too long ago, obviously, because it's obviously relatively new on the market, and I just love the part from Guy Spear. And this is probably where I really got a sense of what he's doing and how he works, and then started to learn more about him, and since then really fascinated. And so Neil, you are running your own YouTube channel as well, the Adventurous Investor, and so what is so adventurous about it?
I didn't put too much thought into the name, to be honest. I was humming and ahhing for a couple of days. This was, I think it was June last year, maybe July, possibly. And to be honest, I'd never really watched much YouTube, consumed much YouTube content, especially investing related content at all, to be honest, prior to lockdowns and COVID and everything. That sort of forced me to be inside a lot more. And then just more of my adventurous sort of lifestyle, I guess. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem that adventurous, but from people looking outside, maybe they think, pretty adventurous sort of lifestyle. I spent a lot of my 20s traveling and working overseas and doing a lot of odd different jobs along the way, sort of thing. Haven't done the conventional sort of, go to school, go to college, go to uni, go to get a job. I definitely haven't done that at all. So generally, and I just love adventure as well. If there's always adventure going, I'm always pretty keen for it, regardless of what it is, to be honest. So that's sort of the overview of it, I guess.
I think it's great, actually. So as you said, the combination between the actual adventurous lifestyle you probably have, but also the adventure into in learning about investing, and this is obviously what a lot of YouTube channels are about, and that's what we try to do: educate people about what investing is, and obviously it's a great adventure to learn about that stuff. So when you see it from that sense, good.
Yeah, from both. Obviously, you've got the adventurous side and also the investing side as well. And especially over this last probably year and a half, 2 years, I've been just trying to consume as much of that investing related content as possible. It's something I've really we've talked about it briefly before we pushed record there, just really got back into reading a lot of investing based books, and I'm really into it at the moment.
That's cool. That's amazing. So let's continue on that. I currently I'm super interested about how people develop their either portfolio structure or think about approaching new investments. So what makes the structure of your portfolio, and how do you think about, do you want to do that in the future? How does it develop? I would love to hear a little bit about it on how you approach that.
Yep. So, like, if we from a whole broader scale, majority of my portfolio is actually made up in property. That's sort of my first. I did buy equities. I think when you were saying earlier, you're buying your first shares when you were 15. I think it was 17 or 18. I went down to the local share broker's office in Hamilton in New Zealand. Went similar sort of process as well. But then, I didn't really do much with those shares. And then I think it was about 25, I bought my first property. And so that's sort of main core of the portfolio at the moment is property. But over this last sort of few years, I have been transitioning more to the equity markets. But then within the equity markets itself, it's only over the last, probably it would have been around June last year that I really started being a lot more open to investing overseas rather than sort of looking so locally in the Australian New Zealand market, where I obviously feel a lot more comfortable being from here. And, obviously you're in and around a lot of different businesses and you sort of know that on a day-to-day basis. I had exposure through ETFs in the past, obviously to the US markets and whatnot. But it was only recently that I started to, in the last sort of year and a half, let's say, have enough confidence to look outside Australia and New Zealand, which has been awesome. Because in turn with that, I was doing a lot of reading as well and following a lot of these other investors that we all love to follow, which in turn sort of brings you onto a lot of different other investments as well. But with regards to like the structure of it all, that's something I still definitely need to work on. It is fairly concentrated, I guess you'd say. But even then, I still think I could rein it in a bit more. I was quite lucky. I ended up buying quite a few equities back in the March, sort of April lows last year, but there was majority just in the Australian and a little bit in the New Zealand market as well, which I've still held all of those. I haven't actually sold out of any of those yet. And then only probably over the last year or so that I have started adding to positions outside of New Zealand and Australia as well. But
that's interesting.
Core of the portfolio is probably still, I'd say if you're looking on a percentage basis, it'd be about 60, maybe 65% sort of local. And then, I've got a few holdings outside of Australia and New Zealand as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, home buyers is obviously a big thing. And especially, I think in Australia, it feels like that a lot of the investors are looking locally to see what is the Australian and New Zealand market doing. Obviously, a lot of New Zealand listings are listed in Australia as well, so I think they are kind of very close together. But outside of that, I think a lot of investors are shy of investing into international companies, especially people that are already in the market for longer and probably a little bit older. I think the younger generation knows more about international companies. They are obviously more influenced of what they see and hear somewhere else. So I think younger people might be more inclined to buy internationally, but the older generation, it feels like is certainly focused a lot on Australian equity. And that's one of the things that I find interesting, the exposure that people have in Australia to the share market is actually relatively high, especially because this is part of a lot of people's retirement plan with the superannuation in Australia, which is obviously held in equities a lot. And obviously, while this is obviously diversified, I still think that the majority of money stays within Australia. And for me, so it was the same. So I obviously you start learning about the companies that you have, and then you start to in your country and the companies that you know. And then obviously US, when you grow up in Europe, US is still very close and you can follow that very easily. But same as you, started to really over the last years, probably the last 3 years, to broaden that spectrum, to look what Chinese companies are doing, to look if there are some companies in Japan that are doing well, obviously knowing that Japan has had a massive market high back in the 90s, and then it has still not recovered from it. But there are great companies there, no? And when you see it on an individual basis, when you just look at the companies, there still can be opportunities, no? So interesting. Certainly a topic that I'd love to talk about in the future a little bit more on my channel as well. So thanks for giving a little bit of insight there. That's good.
Definitely, I think just one more note on the how you're saying the younger generation seemed a lot more open to investing overseas. I think just with the accessibility now, like on your phone, you can just buy and sell equities in your smoko break sort of thing. I know when I was first starting out, it was quite the process. Even just to invest locally in New Zealand, I had to go down to the brokerage office and talk to him. And the brokerage costs were like, from memory, it was around $70 or $80 New Zealand just to buy or sell any equities. And it was quite a process, which in turn makes you not really sell either, because you just buy and then you sort of just let it run for as long as you let it run, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. No. Yeah.
Whereas now it's so accessible, which is great in one regard, but I think it can also hinder you a little bit, because you can panic, wake up in the morning, Bubba's down 11%, panic sell sort of thing. Whereas in the past, it was a little bit trickier to do that, to buy and sell equities.
Yeah. On that note, Barbara, we definitely want to jump into the numbers a
Yeah.
little bit. We were both keen this morning to see what the results were that were presented, and so we definitely go into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
On your portfolio and what you currently have, how do you feel about selling positions? So, no, you talked you bought a couple of things in Australia, New Zealand, and now internationally. But when do you sell? What is the reason for you to sell?
Yeah, so generally it's not an issue that I sort of face too often is selling equities. And saying that, I did sell actually to purchase our lodge in Japan, because that we have a self-managed super set up, and we had a small equity portfolio in there. It was around $40,000 worth of time, give or take. But in order to purchase the lodge in Japan, we liquidated that entire portfolio. So I essentially sold all those positions at the time, and then put all that proceeds into the purchase of the property in Japan. So that was the last time I actually pretty much sold any equities, and only just been a buyer over these last sort of few years. I was actually out of the market, pretty much out of the equity markets, bar a few ETFs and KiwiSaver in New Zealand. And because we have the self-managed super, we don't have any other investments outside of the lodge in Japan that's actually owned through our super. And it wasn't until sort of the March correction last year that all of a sudden I was getting a lot more excited about the equity markets again. So I was in a bit of a mad rush trying to put together a bit of a list. It was frantic. And before I knew it, the market had picked back up and she was starting to run away again. So that was exciting times. And I was lucky I had a bit of cash available at the time to deploy into the markets. But yeah, I still hold a lot of all those positions that I picked up last year. But I think, I don't know, I'm sort of in two minds. Like I've got a lot of these I've got maybe about a dozen different equities across Australia and New Zealand. And they're all pretty core sort of blue chips, if you want to call them blue chip, staple sort of companies, with all dividend reinvestment plans and all the rest of it. And they're all, majority of them are doing quite well, with the exception of A2. So I think I'll just leave them there unless I see them as being, outrageously overvalued. Then I may look at selling out of those. But I'm quite happy just to leave those there for the time being, to be honest. And then, now obviously looking outside of Australia and New Zealand a fair bit, because that's where a lot of these investors we love to sort of invest outside of, obviously Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah. Let's not let our audience wait too long to talk about Alibaba. I think
let's get into it.
You made the teaser already a couple of times.
I know.
So, let's tackle it. So once again, earnings call. I think US time before the market, and that's why the US listing, the ADR, over the day 11% down. When you look at the Hong Kong listing, funny enough, that was already down yesterday 5% without the numbers being published. So I'm not sure if there were some news that were already, I don't know, got out before actually officially known. It kind of felt like it, but yeah, the US listing, the BABA stock, ADR 11% down yesterday. And we should probably say that, full disclosure, Neil already said that he has a position in there. Did you? No, and I have as well. So no,
you have the Hong Kong listing, don't you?
I have the Hong Kong listing. But this is not advice to follow us in any regards. No financial advice on this YouTube channel. We really just speak about it. We speak about what we do. We speak about our own opinions, and please try to create your own opinions and do your own research on that. That out of the way. So yeah, what do you think about the earnings that got reported? And I actually might. I actually might open the presentation up.
For sure.
Just so, at least one slide. There's one slide that we can share.
A bit of an overview of it.
Exactly.
It wasn't all doom and gloom. I don't know. Everyone's bloody panic selling it, I feel a bit.
Yeah. But, so for everyone who doesn't know how to find those presentations, it's actually really easy. You just Google the company name, and behind it you say investor relations. And the first link you find on Google, it brings it to a page from Alibaba or any other company that you want to look up. And there is a summary of informations. Usually you find the latest earning results on the very top of that page, and you find information about it. And so you found information for Baba as well. And let's see, we have that earnings presentation, and obviously we can see that revenue is still growing, 30% or 29% year over year.
I think there was
Pretty
slightly
amazing.
less than what they were projecting, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So revenue up high, however, slightly below expectations, which obviously never a good thing for the market, right? And the one thing, and especially when you look at the cloud business, which I find really interesting, because obviously you have the total revenue, but you have the commerce businesses and the cloud business, which I think this is obviously something that is still not fully utilized from Alibaba and China. And with utilized, I mean that this is a market in China that is still, I believe that this can still grow much higher than, for example, the growth could be in America or internationally.
Definitely an area to watch. And I know there's a lot of people speculating around that area in the business. So it was good to still see growth there by 33%. Like everyone else is panicking, and obviously net income's down and everything. But yeah, I don't think it was too bad myself, personally.
Yeah. So obviously, it shows here the adjusted EBITDA down 32%, which obviously sounds a lot, and obviously is a lot. However, when you read further down where that goes into, it's a lot of investment that goes into establishing a better business, and actually making the company be more robust for the future. So I think it's still a good investment. When you are, as a company, are able to take money and reinvest it into your company, I think it's generally a good thing if it's spent well. No? And obviously we just received that earnings presentation today, so I have not done any detailed research on it.
I'm the same.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Alibaba and that the price goes down? How do you feel about it in general? What's your gut feel? Do you think that's okay, or are you getting worried? Or
I'm not getting worried. No, I'm still very happy with my position with Alibaba at the moment. And no, I'm not planning on selling at all. I mean, I think the forecast there, the growth rates have been slightly. I think they're forecasting between 20 and 23% growth rate, which is another reason maybe it's pulled back a little bit as well, I'd imagine. Where analysts, I think they're expecting around the 27% growth rate for next year. But the active buyers, I was reading just quickly over the active buyers, they've still got, they've got 953 million active buyers, and they're still saying that they'll have 1 billion by the end of the year, is what they're forecasting anyway. And I think, was it 2030, the goal for 2 billion online, I think. Maybe fact check that one a little bit, but I'm sure that was their sort of, their goal was to have 2 billion active customers online by, I'm pretty sure it was 2030.
Yeah.
And obviously the cloud part of the business, that's an area of interest. This is an area of your sort of expertise a lot more than myself, but it's good to see 33% growth there. I feel is a good positive. No.
And on that, I think Tom from Investing with Tom has done some or on his calculation, in his research, he tried to be as conservative as possible. So he really only looked at the core business, which is obviously the sales part, so the commercial part of the business. And he did a valuation based on only the core business, and he found that Alibaba was already, in his view, obviously attractive at that prices only. Looking at the commercial side of the business, and when you then, for him, the cloud business, he sees it as an add-on. And that's obviously a very conservative view. And I think that you should definitely include it in your calculations, because in my opinion, it's a very mature part of the business. It's a very mature product. We can see that in the rest of the world, and especially US and Europe, that cloud environments heavily utilized. In Europe, probably is still tricky, because you have a lot of data protection laws and stuff, which makes it hard. However, it's a product that is used and will be used more and more. And I think China, of course, you never know what the government is doing on restrictions, on how they want to have access to data or whatever. Maybe there are some concerns. I don't want to go into detail that, because I really don't have enough knowledge about it. But I feel like that the product in general has so much growth ahead in China.
Yeah. Very much so. I mean, that's my basic understanding of it as well. Like, it's not an area of my expertise either. But and Tom did a fantastic breakdown of all of that. I think he did a good. I think he had a chat with the Afternoon Investor on his podcast as well, which was awesome. Broke it down into some great detail as well around his sort of valuation, or he was running through it in his head.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely. Yeah, I'm still very happy with it myself. It's hard not to get sort of caught up in the quarter-to-quarter sort of movements. See these headlines and everyone's saying, slashing earnings and everything's down and panic. But you've just got to look at the longer picture on a lot of it, I feel. You look out a few months from now and everything's, looking a lot different.
100%. And one thing before we go, I wanted to share that, because I think we as value investors,
Yes.
I love headlines like this, and I love it for a specific reason. So I just read it out loud once. Yeah, Alibaba shares drop 11% as it slashes guidance, and earnings plunge on China's slowdown.
Yeah,
and I just love it so much, because it creates that fear. No? And I think obviously stock market is driven by fear, and this is where I'm glad that I'm a value investor, that I see those headlines, and obviously I even read those reports only to then digest the information that is potentially in the article. But I'm not I'm not acting on the headline,
awesome.
which I think is very important. No?
Important,
exactly, and looking at the fundamentals, seeing what the company is doing, of course, but trying to look behind the headline and see what's actually happening and what are they doing. No? And I think it's an important call out to, regardless of what headlines are saying, you should do your research. You should try to do your calculations to get your understanding about a certain company, and then act on your findings, your beliefs. And because this is obviously, if you only would read the headlines, we probably wouldn't be as comfortable holding on to something. No? So, and I know in my view, and probably you can talk a little bit about that from your view, when you did your own research, if you made a decision that was well informed, and you made a decision that was based on your own calculations, and I tried to write down information about a certain stock and then make a decision on basically on either piece of paper or a blank Word document, just typing all the information down that I find, and then make at some stage a well-informed decision based on the facts that I found and the calculations I did. Then you feel much more comfortable with your purchase. No?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I think that on another little side note, that's another good thing with YouTube. I know myself, I go back and watch some of my previous videos to hear my thoughts of what I was saying at that point in time, like you say, with writing down on pieces of paper and whatnot. For me, I know I quite like going back, and some of my old videos, I'm like, Jesus, that's rough. But it's another good thing of having the YouTube channel there as well. You can sort of look back at previous videos on to refresh your mind of what you were thinking at the time as well, which is a nice little bonus of having the YouTube channel as well, I guess.
It is. It's kind of you press the record button, and it obviously records your thoughts as well. And if you then go back, it just reiterates what you did. Obviously, sometimes I actually felt like I kind of I had situations where I kind of made an informed decision. I felt like that's right, and I even shared it. But then all of a sudden, got
Your thoughts,
cold
James?
feet, and I did again sell a certain stock, and after that it actually came true what I think was a high possibility, but I got scared about some feedback I received, and which is obviously not the way you should do stuff, but
comments on the video would sort of
for example, and it's and I should have just got back to what I wrote down, and luckily that it was a very small position and just an idea, and but anyway, so trying to, and I unfortunately I way too often I see myself getting influenced, and then knowing that you wrote stuff down just helps, and I try to go back to those thoughts as often as possible.
That's also another good thing with the channel as well. I find, for me personally, like there's a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter than me, and they can sometimes have some fantastic input, and like, oh, have you thought about this, or I don't know, whatever that may be that they comment on, and then I was like, no, I hadn't thought about that, and then I'll sort of go down another avenue to look at that, and then sort of make my own decision from there. But which is another great sort of benefit to having a YouTube channel as well. I feel, for me,
it is, and I think it's 100%, and I think it's important to stay open to feedback, and to read the comments as well. And I think I would encourage every one of our viewers now as well to comment on what we talk about, and maybe even write down your questions, and we both will respond. Because I think this is where we all can win from having the conversation.
No, I totally agree. Just quickly, did you want to touch on Monish selling out, or have you looked into that at all, or any thoughts on that? Or
we can absolutely talk about it. I'm happy to
just to wrap it up.
I obviously know. I have not further, so I couldn't share the reasons at the moment. I'm not sure if he has talked about the reasons, but maybe you. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
No, he hasn't shared it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people pretty keen to hear his thoughts around selling. There's a lot of people on YouTube speculating at the moment, including myself, of the reasons to why he may have sold. He's got something better in Turkey, or tax reasons, or there's a number of different reasons to why he may have sold. I must admit, I was very shocked to see it actually myself. I had someone actually, just going back to the mentioning on comments, someone commented on one of my videos around the Monish Babrai, I think it was. They said, "Wow, what are your thoughts around him selling?" And I was like, "What?" I woke up to that, and then I checked. I was like, "You're joking."
And a large portion. I mean, he talks about 10 cents a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see the next filing he does.
See if he's out entirely.
If we will be able to figure out if he did another big purchase somewhere else, if either
I'm hoping
in the 10-cent area somewhere.
Yeah, well, he seems very bullish on that over his recent chats.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he sort of talks about it in one of his, where he talks at the universities things, which are amazing. If you haven't watched any of those videos, you definitely should, especially if you're interested in Babrai. Because now if he's sold out of the position where he's definitely trimmed it substantially, he might be a bit more open to talking about it, around his thoughts around that, which I'll be very curious to hear.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's after so many great investor purchased, and now you would think if you are a long-term investor, prices would be obviously more attractive than they were half a year ago.
Sure. And he'd be down substantially on that position. I mean, we don't know exactly when he brought or when he sold.
But he must have. He definitely will have lost, or will have sold with a loss. Yeah.
Probably within the 20 to 30% range, you could say comfortably. So he must be having. I don't know. It's you can go around in circles speculating why he's done it.
100%.
But it was interesting to see Charlie Munger, obviously, who Monish idolizes almost as a god to him. Double down in that position.
One doubles down and the other one sells out.
Yes. And obviously, I think they talk a fair bit, Charlie and Monish. So I know that I've heard in previous chats where they used to go around for tea and that sort of thing, which would be amazing. Having dinner with Charlie, but or even having dinner with both of them. You just sit in the corner just listening. It's definitely interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yes. let's maybe I think. Oh, I'm pretty confident we will pick up on that conversation in one of our next chat in our November getaway. November
Yeah,
chats.
I'm sure it'll be a hot topic.
Yes, so that will be good. I think you will not be there for our next chat, which is a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd love to be there, but I'm about to fly off to work again tomorrow, actually. So the internet's pretty patchy out, and I actually got to work while I'm out there as well.
Fair enough. That's all right.
It's 12-hour days, so I don't think I'll be able to sneak away for a quick chat, which I'd love to. I'll try and sneak in the comments if I can, but unfortunately, I won't be able to be there. Because it was awesome. The last one, I really enjoyed the last one. It was great.
It was great. Yeah. Now you will be there in our thoughts and
spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. No worries, Neil. I thank you very much for coming on the channel.
No, thanks heaps for having me on, mate. It's been awesome chatting with you. Loved it.
Amazing. And just for our audience again, go check out Neil's YouTube channel. Are there any other ways to get in contact with you, or what should people
YouTube is probably the best port of call for investing. We've obviously got the website and things, and Instagram for the business, which is Mountain Hut Myoko in Japan.
Yeah.
And I have recently got into Twitter. I'm not out tweeting much at all. I'm not a frequent Twitter.
Reading, no.
I'm doing a lot of reading. There's some fantastic resources on Twitter, and especially from Monish and Guy. Guy quite often posts tweets, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another area that I've only recently got into myself, only because Tom and Frank and all these other investors that we love to sort of yarn with as well. They're all quite often on there as well. So But no, that's it, man. Awesome. Thanks heaps for having me on. It's been great chatting with you.
You're very welcome. And thanks again, and see you in the next one. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Awesome.